Oxfam Report 2023. Some highlights. Oxfam International released its annual inequality report of 2023 titled Survival of the Richest in the opening day of the World Economic Forum 2023 in Davos in Switzerland. According to the report, the very richest became dramatically richer and corporate profits hit records high, driving an explosion of inequality. The report emphasizes on how taxing the rich is vital to addressing the unprecedented polycrisis, that is global crises that are interconnected, entwining and worsening one another, leading to skyrocketing inequality. The report suggests how much tax the richest should pay and how governments could raise such taxation in practical, tried and tested ways. The report shows how taxing the rich could set a path to a more equal and sustainable world free from poverty. The report appeared in January 2023. Major findings of the report. Some of the major findings of the report are as follows. An age of crisis. In 2022, the World Bank had announced that the goal of ending extreme poverty by 2030 would be impossible because the global progress in reducing extreme poverty had come to a halt. As per the International Monetary Fund (IMF), one-third of the global economy would be in recession in 2023. The United Nations Development Programme, that is UNDP, has found for the first time that human development is falling in 9 out of 10 countries in the world. At least 1.7 billion workers worldwide would have seen inflation outpace their wages in 2022. Whole nations are facing bankruptcy, with debt payments reaching out of control. The poorest countries have been spending 4 times in repaying their debts than on healthcare, besides planning brutal spending cuts. Over the next 5 years, 3/4 of the governments are planning to cut spending amounting to about $7.8 trillion. Huge fortunes for a few. According to Oxfam analysis of Credit Suisse data, Credit Suisse Group AG is a global investment bank and financial services firm in Switzerland. Since 2020, the wealth grab by the super rich accelerated, and the richest 1% captured almost 2/3 of all new wealth. This is 6 times more than 90% bottom humanity. Over the last 10 years, more than half of all new global wealth was captured by the richest 1% of humanity. Since 2020, for every dollar of new global wealth gained by someone in the bottom 90%, $1.7 million was gained by one of the world's billionaires. The billionaires saw huge gains during the COVID-19 pandemic. Lots of public money pumped into the economy by rich countries in order to support their populations drove up asset prices and wealth at the top. This led the super rich to gain unprecedented fortunes in the absence of progressive taxation. Again, this corporate price profiteering drawn at least 50% of inflation in Australia, the US and Europe, in what is as much a cost of profit crisis as a cost of living one. Billionaires and policy failures. The report finds out that the richest are key contributors to climate change, as a billionaire emits 1,000,000 times more carbon than the average person. It means that very existence of booming billionaires has led to an economic system which has failed to deliver for humanity. Therefore, to break the discredited cycle of ever-ending billionaire wealth accumulation, governments need to address all those ways in which the economy favors them, such as regulating labor laws, privatization of public assets, CEO compensation, etc. The report also suggests that the world should aim to halve the wealth and number of billionaires by 2030 by increasing taxes on the top 1% and adopting other billionaire busting policies so that the number of billionaires and their wealth reach where they were in 2012. Thus, tax would be crucial in delivering that vision. However, to achieve this goal, there must be a drastic break with a decade of tax cuts for the rich. The study further states that for every US dollar one raised in tax, only 4 cents come from taxes on wealth. This failure to taxing wealth is higher in low and middle income countries. Two-thirds of the countries do not have any form of inheritance tax on wealth. Yet assets passed to direct descendants, half of the world's billionaires now reside where there is no such tax. Top rates of tax on income became lower and less progressive. The average tax rate on richest fell from 58% in 1980 to 42% more recently in OECD countries, that is Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Across 100 other countries, the average rate is even lower at 31%. Rates of tax on capital gains are on an average only 18% across more than 100 countries. Capital gains is the most important source of income for the top 1% in most countries. The results also have exposed many of the richest people of the world getting away with paying hardly any tax. For instance, Elon Musk has been paying a true tax rate of 3.2%, while other of the richest billionaires like Jeff Bezos pays less than 1%. On the other hand, people with poor income pay a much higher tax, such as Aber Christine, one of the market traders in Uganda, pays 40% of her profits in tax. Taxing the rich and corporations with greater percentage can end the poly crisis the world is undergoing. Great taxation would enable strategic governments to invest in universal healthcare and education, happier societies, research and innovation development, transition to green economies, etc. So, together with the Institute for Policy Studies, the Patriotic Millionaires and the Fight Inequality Alliance, Oxfam used data from Wealth Tax and Forbes to calculate that a wealth tax of 2% on the world's millionaires, 3% on those having wealth over $50 million, and 5% on the world's billionaires would raise $1.7 trillion annually, which would lift 2 billion people out of poverty. It could also fill the funding gap for emergency UN humanitarian appeals and fund a global plan to end hunger. Moreover, the tax could help with financing the loss and damage caused to low and lower middle income countries by climate breakdown. It could also provide universal health care and social protection for these countries. How much the richest should pay? Governments must use the tax tools at their disposal to end inequality in the following ways. Number 1. Establish one-off solidarity wealth taxes and corporate windfall taxes, as well as much higher taxes on dividend payouts to stop crisis profiteering. Number 2. Increase taxes on the richest 1% forever, for example to a minimum of 60% of their income from both labor and capital, with higher rates for multi-millionaires and billionaires. Number 3. Impose tax on the wealth of super rich at rates high enough to systematically reduce extreme wealth and lower power concentration and inequality. Number 4. Increase government spending on inequality busting sectors such as healthcare, education and food security through revenues from these taxes, and to fund the just transition to a low carbon world. Oxfam 2023 report on India. According to Oxfam India, just 5% of Indians own more than 60% of the country's wealth, whereas the bottom 50% of the population possess only 3% of the wealth. It also stated that between 2012 and 21, 40% of the wealth created in India went to just 1% of the population. The total number of billionaires in India increased from 102 in 2020 to 166 billionaires in 2022. The combined wealth of India's 100 richest persons has reached at rupees 54.12 lakh crore mark, that is about $660 billion, which could fund the entire union budget for more than 18 months. The wealth of the top 10 richest Indians amounts to rupees 27.52 lakh crore, that is about US dollar 335.7 billion. India has been suffering from multiple crises like hunger, unemployment, inflation and health calamities, but India's billionaires are not affected. Unfortunately, number of hungry Indians has increased from 190 million in 2018 to 350 million in 2022. Trickle-down economies entered the Indian economy landscape in the form of tax cuts to the wealthy in 2019. Trickle-down economies is a term used to say that economic policies disproportionately favor the wealthy investors and large corporations. An increase in indirect taxes is particularly regressive when taking into account the percentage of household income the poor spend on necessities such as food. As per the report, the bottom 50% of the population eventually pays 6 times more on indirect taxation as a percentage of income as compared to the top 10%. Taxation in India has made a small group of billionaires who have been growing richer and richer off the sacrifices made by millions of starving taxpayers. Some of the causes of a more intense burden on marginalized communities in India include women's exclusion from inheritances despite law enshrined in the Hindu Marriage Act. Dalit and other lower caste women are being forced into inhumane and undignified labor conditions, increased participation in an informal economy or a regular salaried job, etc. Solutions to wealth inequality. This report has suggested some solutions to India's rapidly increasing income inequality. First, the tax burden between the rich and the poor should be balanced. Ensure that those with means pay more than those who are struggling to make both ends meet. The balancing would include instituting a wealth tax for the top 1% of the richest persons of society, such as millionaires, multimillionaires, and the billionaires, with higher rates of tax, lowering indirect taxes such as goods and services tax (GST) on essential commodities such as food, and increasing taxes on luxury goods. Thus, there would be simultaneous increase in revenue and decrease in the tax burden on the poor. Besides, the Oxfam India has also recommended stronger welfare policies for the millions of people who are without basic needs. By improving access to health care and education, India would be able to spend on welfare lines at par with the rest of the world. There should also be a strong social safety net, especially in the informal sector, allowing them to support in times of crisis. This way, India would be able to treat its people with dignity and respect, and also allow social mobility to make their way in the world. About Oxfam. Oxfam International was established in 1995 by a group of independent non-governmental organizations, NGOs. These NGOs joined together as a confederation to maximize efficiency and to reduce global poverty and injustice with greater impact. There are 21 member organizations of the Oxfam International Confederation which are based in Australia, Belgium, Brazil, Canada, Colombia, Denmark, France, Germany, Great Britain, Hong Kong, Ireland, India, Italy, Mexico, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Quebec, South Africa, Spain, Turkey, and the United States. Its secretariat is based in Nairobi, in Kenya. The organization also has 3 engagement offices in South Korea, Sweden, and Argentina, which raise funds and focus on awareness about the work. Oxfam is a global movement of people who are fighting inequality to end poverty and injustice. Across regions, from the local to global, Oxfam members work with people to bring the lasting change. The organization is committed to the universality of human rights. The name Oxfam comes from the Oxford Committee for Famine Relief, founded in Britain in 1942. For more such topics, you can go to our website spectrumindiaonline.com. Thank you.